In your life, you deserve to be more, do more, have more, and give more. And now the Becoming More podcast with Dianna Kokoszka.
Welcome to Becoming More. You know, today I am with James Brinkmann. James and I have been friends now for a few years, and James joined the real estate industry fresh out of the Marine Corps. It was back in 2008, and then he went to St. Louis, where he built a large team there, and it was in 2018 that he finally said, hey, I want to go into leadership. I want to go from success to significance. And that's what he has done. He is the current owner of multiple Keller Williams franchises there in the Omaha and Lincoln, Nebraska area. He has ancillary businesses that relate to real estate, and his passion is just serving and leading people. He's also a great developer of leaders. And so we welcome you today, James. We're so excited that you're here with us.
Diane, I'm excited to be here.
Oh, good. Well, let's go back a little bit, because this is about becoming more, and you obviously have become more in many areas of your life. Yet, what was it that caused you to become a Marine?
So it's a story. My parents, if they see this, they won't be super pumped. They weren't super excited when I joined the Marine Corps. I was actually in college at the time. I was playing soccer, and I don't know. I just felt like I felt an obligation, I guess. There was a war going on, and I felt like I'm as able as anybody. It's not fair for me to be like, someone else will go take care of that. That's someone else's problem. Like, I don't need to go do that. So joined the Marine Corps, joined the infantry, and that's how I got there, I guess. Was I didn't think it was fair for me to say someone else can go do that. And I have a little brother, and I didn't want him to have to go do it and me not do it. So felt an obligation, I guess.
Okay, so an obligation to serve your country, which says that you're already a servant leader to begin with. What did you learn in the Marine Corps that you brought forward into your real estate career?
I learned a lot of things in the Marine Corps. I would say loyalty, hard work. I think probably the biggest thing I learned in the Marine Corps was perspective. So I went to Iraq a couple times, and people live very different there in some of the places than we live here. I don't think all the time we realize how fortunate we are. Or like, hey, I might not shower for a couple months, or we might not have hot food for a couple months. I think we take a lot of things for granted. And so it just gives you a different perspective on life and I guess gratitude of like, hey, we have things pretty good. And how can we go help other people that maybe aren't as fortunate as us?
Okay, so I have to tell you, when I heard I may not get a shower for 2 months, that kind of stopped me right there, because it was like, how did you live with yourself? I guess you just got used to it.
Yeah, there's just there wasn't any other option. So we didn't really have a choice.
So here's what I just heard in that. Sometimes you don't have an option. You just have to learn to live with things, because a lot of people say this is a problem and they want to fix it. That wasn't a problem. It was a fact. So what are some of the things that you do in your business right now today that determines if this is a problem or a fact that you're not going to be able to change?
I think a lot of it just comes down to mindset. So as you were saying that, Mike in my office here says all the time that pain is inevitable, but suffering's optional. And I think that's the mindset, right? Like, hey, we're going to have hard times no matter what. We get to choose how we perceive those, though. And so,
no, that is so good. Keep going.
I say so. Like, you can take it as a real estate market, or if there's people outside of real estate watching this, that there's always going to be stuff that happens. And sometimes in our little bubble, we think like, oh, I'm the only one this happens to. But tough stuff happens to everybody. I think how we perceive that and our perspective on it impacts what kind of life we have and around the people that we lead and how their life is. That's
so good. What do you think it is as to why people go into the victim part of the story?
This is going to sound bad, maybe. I was going to say it's because we think we're like really, really special. And not that everyone's not special, but everyone has stuff that happens. It's not just us. I think sometimes we convince ourselves because it's easier that person over there had different circumstances, or they had an easier route, or they had more advantages. And I just got a bad lot, and there's nothing I can do about it. I don't buy into that.
Wow, I love what you just said. There's nothing I can do about it, which is the sound of a victim. What do you do when you hear people talk about the real estate industry or the market or how tough it is? What are some things that you say or help them with that gets them out of that victim mentality into being the hero of their own life?
Yeah, I think one of my lessons is when I first got here and I was leading people, maybe I wasn't quite the best leader. I had still had some growth and some opportunities. Not that I don't now, but I had more then. And I think I would just tell people, like, just go lead generate, just go get into activity, just go do something. And although that might have been the right answer, it wasn't, they didn't come to that answer on their own. So they weren't bought into the answer. So now I would say it's more about asking really good questions and helping people self-discover, like, what is it you really want and how can doing this help you get what you want?
You know, when did that happen? Did you notice it just at first that you were being more like the Marine sergeant, just telling people what to do? When did you have that discovery to say, this isn't working?
So you could probably ask some of my investors here in Omaha. I show up to some meetings like, no, I know the right answer. You don't know the answer. Here's the answer. Go do this. You might be right sometimes, but no one listens. It doesn't get the results you want. So even if you have the right information, no one buys in, no one cares, no one wants to work with you. And so I would say I learned it, like most things, I learned it the hard way, by failing and by it not working and by losing some people and saying, okay, we got to find a better way to do this. Just telling people what to do all the time maybe isn't the best approach, even if it's the right answer, even if you're coming place with like, I want to help you and I care about you and I know this is going to make your life better. I think asking questions and listening, and then I think you taught me some of this of like telling stories. So being really intentional and telling people stories where they can see themselves in the story to get where you want them to go seems to be a much better approach than just trying to tell people what to do.
Well, that's interesting because how many people have you been led by, right? Here you are, you're a follower, you desire to know something, yet they just told you exactly what to do. What did that make you feel when they did that?
I think people shut down. I think when someone just tells you what to do, it's not your idea. And to some level, we all have egos and we all want to be right. We all want to look good. And so if it doesn't come across like we're the one with the idea, then we probably don't do it and we don't get the results. And in turn, the leader doesn't get what they want either.
Yeah, nobody wins. When you were in the Marine Corps and you said you learned different perspectives, and now I'm going to take you to where you're selling real estate in St. Louis, Missouri, and you sold there for 10 years. What are some of the lessons you learned that are now helping you as an operating principal and an owner of multiple market centers?
That for especially for real estate, but I think it's for any business, it's a lot of really small things done really consistently at a really high level. It's not, we're all looking for the one thing that's going to change our business. We're all looking for like the one easy answer. And there's not an easy answer. It's like 100, 1,000 little things that we have to do really well, really consistently. So for me, it was like when I coach people as an OP or I meet with agents, like, oh, you just know all the scripts. I want to be like you. I want to do what you do. Like, yeah, but you don't want to do the 10 years of script and role play every single morning to get there. Like, we don't want that part. We just want the finished result part. That's just not how the world works.
Yeah, I want to do what you do right now. And are you willing to do what I did? Right? As John Maxwell says, if you only want to do what I do instead of what I did, then you'll just be in a bunch of doo-doo. Right?
That's right. He said that at the Moore event, and I was like, that's 100% right.
Yeah, you gotta get into the did part of it. And what happened when you did role play every single morning consistently?
Yeah, I think it's the same as a lot of things in life. When you do it consistently, it builds confidence. And when you have confidence, you're much more likely to do the things that you need to do. Um, it's it's your skills building, but it really is confidence. Like I heard someone say, I think it was Greg Harrelson maybe said that confidence wins over competence. And that was a big aha for me. But I think confidence comes from competence a lot of the time. That the more we practice things and the more we work on them, the more confident we get. And the more we do the activity, we get a result. And that cycle repeats upon itself.
Yeah, it's kind of like a double-edged sword there. You've got competence and you've got confidence, and the two of them working together is a winning combination. So when you bring in agents, what do you tell them to do consistently, or how do you approach the consistency in business?
So the first thing I would tell them to do is they have to figure out what their goal is and what they want to accomplish, because it's going to get hard and you're going to get some no's. You're going to get rejected quite a bit. And if you don't know why you're doing this or what the result is that you're going for, you're going to quit when it gets difficult. And then once we have the goal and once we know what we do, then we can build out a plan of how we make that happen. It's not that hard. It's lead generation, it's practice your skills, and it's go on appointments. I mean, negotiate deals. It's not, we get lost in a lot of the minutia and a lot of the busy activity, and because it sounds like it's going to be simpler and it's more fun, and we convince ourselves we're busy instead of focusing on what the big rocks are and just do the most important things.
So why do you think that so many agents don't do just those basic things if that's what it takes to be successful?
It's simple for one, and we want like a creative, fun answer, not a simple, hard answer. Just like fitness or anything else, like I know if I eat better and I move more, I will lose weight. That takes like really boring consistency. That's not a lot of fun. I would like to look for a more fun, easier answer. And so that's what I go out in search of, instead of just, if I show up every day and do the boring, I can go live the life I want to live. We live in a really, really instant gratification society. And most of the things that it takes to succeed are really longer term, build on itself, and we don't see immediate results. And so we quit.
Do you think it's that instant gratification is what's causing a lot of the issues?
I do. I think it was Earl Nightingale that I stole this from. But he said it's a lot like a ship leaving a port. So we know where we want to get to and we know where we're at. And we set our directional and we head towards the port. But for like 99% of the trip, all we see is the ocean, and the ocean all looks the same. And we don't actually know if we're making progress. But we have to trust that we're moving in the right direction and not turn around. And that's really, really hard to do.
Yeah, when it's that consistency, a lot of times it's repetitious boredom is what we call it, right? Yet the people that stick with it, what do you say to the people you're leading to get them to capture that vision and to create the culture of persistency and resistance?
Yeah, so we would say that we build people that build businesses. So first you work on the person and the person steps into the business. If you build whole people, they'll build really great businesses. And then everyone needs encouragement. Everyone needs a pat on the back sometimes. Everyone needs a reminder. Everyone needs accountability. Accountability, I think, gets tossed around as like a negative and a bad word.
Yeah.
I know for me, to get where I want to go, like, you provide me accountability as a mentor. That's really something I need. I think everyone needs accountability. If you don't have it, it's just, to me, it's too hard to hold yourself accountable to every single thing you want to do. You have to surround yourself with people that are going to help you get there.
Well, that's so important. And, I love what Kathy said. How do you know people need encouragement? They're breathing, right? Everybody needs encouragement. So you're spot on there. Now, I want to go, though, to some things that I know you and I have spoken about, and that is character of a leader. The character is so important. What are some of the things that you've learned about character and what you've worked on personally? Because it is about going from the inside out. You work on yourself, as you said, and then you become a great leader. So what are the characteristics that you've worked on that are very important?
I think all of them at some level come down to discipline. And I would say that's one thing that you do learn in the Marine Corps is discipline. It's doing the things that you don't want to do consistently and keeping yourself from doing what you know you shouldn't do. There's lots of decisions every day that we have to make that there's some we know we should do and we don't want to do. And there's some that we shouldn't do that we do want to do. And we got to keep ourselves from doing those. I think it sounds simple, but to me, that really is like, that boils down to what the battle is. And if we can do the right things consistently, even when no one's around, so we think sometimes like, no one will know, but and it erodes at your character. And it's harder to stand in front of other people and get buy-in from them and really believe what you're saying if you aren't doing the right things and you don't believe.
Well, okay, so the characteristic that you're looking for there, you're helping yourself to build habits, if I will. That habit of consistently doing the right things. But we're talking about pain versus pleasure, because some of those things are painful. I mean, you'd rather have the pleasure of going into a certain direction, correct? So what do you do to use pain and pleasure to your advantage?
I'm probably better at pain, I would say. Maybe that's a Marine Corps thing. I can write down, like, I can have the vision board and I can write down the goals and stuff. And at the
Yes.
end of the day, I still learn better from making mistakes probably and being in pain and saying, okay, I don't want to do that again. That wasn't that much fun. I didn't like that. Let's not do that again. I think the way to avoid that, at least for me, it goes back to the accountability and the mentorship of I can either make, like, if I take the pain aspect, I can make all the mistakes and feel the pain myself, or I can find really amazing people who have already done things I want to do and who are farther along in the process. And I can learn from their pain and the mistakes they've made. So I don't have to make all the mistakes. If I don't surround myself with those people, then I'm most likely going to make them all myself.
So you have a growth mindset, and I know that about you. How important is it for a leader to come from curiosity and be willing to grow and understand maybe they don't have all the answers?
I don't think you can lead without that, I guess. Like I think for me to lead, like in the market center, for example, I have to bring value to people. If I can't provide them value, there's no reason for them to follow me. There's no reason for them to be in our organization. The only way I can consistently provide value is to constantly be growing and learn things that I can provide value from. If we stay the same, eventually the people will leave us because there's nothing else they can't learn. We can't help them grow.
Well, the learning based is very important for a leader and for every single person. Now, I'm going to take you to some of the things that you and I discussed as a mentee and mentor. And yesterday you said, play to your strength. The 70-25-5, right? It's a principle that great leaders don't attempt to be jack of all trades. Instead, they focus on what they do best and deepen that ability until they do it better than anyone else. So talk to us about that principle, because every day you are to send me some characteristic that you are learning about leadership based upon what I have you reading.
Yeah, I think I would start with, I think our education system does us a disservice right now that we're trying to make people good at everything. I don't actually think that's the best thing for people.
No.
We're all different for a reason. We all have different strengths. We're all good at different stuff. To me, you're much better off to go work on what you're the best at. And I understand, like, if you're running a business, you're going to have some fundamental knowledge. Maybe accounting is not your favorite, but you got to know how to read a P&L or an income statement. I'm not saying you don't have to learn things. I am saying, though, go be the best at what you're the best at, and then just find other people who are the best at the things you're not the best at. To me, that's what that principle is if I constantly, like, if my job is vision and accountability, then I'm going to go be the best at those things. I'm going to figure out who can I go follow, who can I surround myself with that's doing more than I am that I can learn from in those areas. And then I'm going to find people that are good at the other pieces, and I'm going to help them surround themselves with mentors and people to put in their world that are good at what they're the best at.
Okay, so I'm going to focus on one word you said, vision, because that is your responsibility, right? There you are. You have to cast vision. How often do you cast vision, and how important is it to make certain everyone knows the vision?
Yeah, me and you have talked about this a lot. It's the most important thing in my role and my job, and I would say we do it frequently and not nearly enough. That would be my answer. Is I think you had asked me a question one time, like, all right, so here, what's your vision? I tell you what the vision is. You said, awesome. If I ask every person in the world, would they tell me the same way you just did? Like, no, I don't know if I could say that. I don't know if that would be true today. And so I think we can always cast the vision more. We can always continue to talk about it. I think it goes back to like that Chick-fil-A story about my pleasure. Thank you, my pleasure. How many times did you have to say that before it finally got there? I think sometimes as leaders, we think, all right, I cast the vision. We had a big meeting and we made a big announcement. We said what the vision is. Now everybody knows. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way.
You know, and true. Well, Dan Cathy said it took 10 years to get my pleasure throughout all the Chick-fil-A's across the country. Now, when we think about that, are you willing to talk about the vision that much? And I'm going back to some of the conversations that we've had. I'm actually looking them up, and it says the value of vision. Vision unites. Vision provides a center for leadership. Vision dominates the inner conversation. How often do you have that vision talk with yourself?
Myself, I would say, I would love to say every single morning, but I'm going to not lie to people and be honest with you. and say more mornings than I don't, though. To me, that's like sometimes as a leader, it's hard. Like maybe other people, it's not. For me, it's hard. Like some days are tough. It is hard. I feel like if I don't remind myself of the vision of what we're building, of why we're doing this, of the people we want to serve, you can't show up as your best self. Like you won't have the energy to do the things that have to be done on a consistent basis to get the results that we want to get.
Well, I had dinner with Jack Welch and his wife, Susie, one evening, and I asked him about vision. And I said, how often did you speak about vision? And he said, every day to somebody, I was speaking about the vision. And he said, I spoke about it so much, I thought I was going to throw up if I had to say it one more time. Yet I kept saying it because until somebody gets so tired of hearing about it that they can answer me back with everything I want them to say, I got to keep talking about it because vision leaks, vision drifts. It goes off in a different direction. And then the company goes off in a different direction. What do you think vision has to do with culture? And how do you link the two together?
Yep. I think at the end of the day, the vision, like in a way, becomes the culture. Like whatever your vision is, it feeds that culture. You have to build a certain culture for the vision that you have. I think a trap that I've fallen into, and I see maybe other companies or other people fall into, is we talk about vision a lot, but it's a different vision. Like this month we're going to do this, and the next month we're going to do this, and next month we're going to do this. But we never have enough consistency and time to execute on what that vision is. I know I'm guilty of that sometimes. People in my organization are like, dude, you have a million ideas. We gotta stay in this direction to go do this thing. But if we can stay consistent, I just reread the book. I was telling Mike, The Boys in the Boat. And I think
I love that. That book is so good.
It is. It's a phenomenal book. And I think it does do a lot with culture, though, of like, this is going to be really hard. You're going to have to do a lot of work, and most of you are going to quit.
Yeah.
That's not something a lot of people would sign up for. But the people that did built an incredible boat with an incredible culture that went and did incredible things. But it took a long time to get there. And there was a lot of struggle. And there was a lot of times like, I don't know if we're going to make it. I don't know if I'm going to make it on this team. And I think continually thinking about why did I come here? Why do I want to do this? What's the thing we're all building is what builds the culture and keeps it moving along.
Well, and the greatest part about that being a true story, I mean, those people actually lived it. And Tony has a nephew, and his son was one of those boys in the boat, not in that particular movie, yet he did sculling. And when he saw the movie, he said, that's exactly how it was. You didn't know if you could even walk some days at the end, yet you had a passion, a burning desire to actually win, to be the ones that could get that boat to do things that nobody else could do, right? Now, we know in the movie, they wanted to eat, and that was their ticket, so to speak. Instead of sleeping in a junkyard or on the street, they got a bed. Instead of eating whatever they could find in trash cans, they got food. And yet you think about what they went through with no food in their stomach and the things that they did to make that team. Wouldn't it be interesting if we had to work that hard to get into something that we desired to get into? I don't know. I think we're a little frail in today's world compared to some of the movies we watch. What do you think?
I 100% agree. I think we have it a little bit easy. I think it goes back to that perspective piece that I talked about in the beginning of like, I don't think we realize how easy we have it. I picked up something from a friend of mine I thought was really good. So I make promises to myself. And then if I want to break the promise, like let's just say I said I was going to walk a mile every day. In order to do that, I have to say out loud, I cannot go walk a mile. She said, then when I say it, I realized that sounds pretty ridiculous. I could do that. That's dumb. Like there's no reason I can't do that. We let ourselves off too easy sometimes, I think, instead of the reason I like to read books like that is like, hey, they had it really hard. I can do the things I need to do. Things I do aren't quite that bad anymore. Like it gives me a different perspective on what I think is hard sometimes is not really all that hard.
once you start doing it, I think it's hard until you start taking the first step and really focus on the end with, in mind, keeping where it is that you desire to go. And then all of a sudden it becomes easier and easier as you go forward. And you and I have spoken about this thing called loyalty a lot, and how important it is to have loyalty, especially in your inner circle. Yet loyalty to yourself, I loved when you said make a promise to yourself. What is it about being loyal to yourself and to the leaders above you that's important in making anything in your life work?
Yeah, I think it comes down to trust. So like to build a strong relationship, we talked about this today in one of our meetings. To build a strong relationship, you have to have trust. And without loyalty, I think there's no trust. So like I will say like a really personal piece for me is coming into real estate, coming back into like the real world from the Marine Corps. The hardest part I would say is even the people I didn't like in the Marine Corps, I 100% trusted. I knew no matter what, if we ended up in a dark alley and there was 10 people that tried to take our stuff and there was only two of us were going to lose to 10 or we were going to win to 10, but it wasn't going to be one. And a lot of times in the regular world, it doesn't work that way. It's a lot. I think it's more rare in the regular world than it was in the Marine Corps. And that was probably the biggest hurdle for me is finding similar people that share that level of loyalty to go build stuff with. Because the cool thing is when you have that level of loyalty, you don't have to worry about the trust. You don't have to worry about if that person's going to be there. And you can just focus on what the mission is and what you're trying to accomplish. And you make a lot more progress that way.
Well, so you have this band of brothers. I mean, I've watched Marines all around, and I was at an event one time, and there were like 4 Marines. They found out they were Marines, and it was like they band together through that rest of the convention, and they had a great time together, like they'd known each other forever. And sometimes I heard, well, we had a common enemy, we had a common vision, we had a common purpose. Is that how it was in the Marine Corps, or could you add anything to that?
Yeah, I think there is all of those things, but I really think what bands people together is common suffering. Like I think common pain brings people together. I think sharing really hard experiences with people brings you a lot closer because you have experiences together that most people didn't have or haven't had or can't imagine. And it brings people a lot closer together when you have, I think that can work in organizations as well. You might have to manufacture a little bit, but I think if you can create common hardships, like I'm not super good with movies, but I'm going to give this a go. I think it's Remember the Titans maybe where he like becomes the enemy on purpose in a way to unite the team. I think that works in business. I think common suffering or common pain, maybe I shouldn't use suffering, common pain together or common hardship brings people together and brings closeness that you don't get when things are easy.
Well, I find when you're working for a goal and it's a challenge to get to the goal, people either fall apart or they come together, and that is dependent upon the leader. And part of being a leader is coping with difficult people, right? We know that. And so every leader.
You know those, Diana, in case my people see this, I don't have any difficult people, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, we're just talking about the people that we can help out there, right? That do have difficult people, that do have challenges with some folks. What advice do you have for people that how do you get along with those challenging, difficult people where I don't care if they're buyers, sellers, somebody you lead, maybe even a family member.
Yeah. I think it's perspective. Back to that, not to keep harping on that, but I think if you can realize that everybody's doing the best they can with what they know at that time, it helps you relate to people a lot better. They're not trying maybe to be difficult. They're not trying to harm you necessarily. Maybe they just don't know how to handle the situation, or maybe they're just hurt, and so hurt people sometimes.
Right.
And they're dealing with it the best they can. And as a leader, we have to take maybe a different approach and try to get where they're coming from so we can help them where they're at.
Well, and you do that through asking questions, because I know you very well to do when you get around people and you're not understanding, to gain their perspective. I've watched you ask questions. Now, as an operating principal, an OP, as we say in Keller Williams, what has been one of the most challenging things that you have faced? position.
Yeah. Dealing with all kinds of different people, probably. That's where I failed the most, I would say, is coming from a real estate team where I get to decide who's on the team, and we're going to do it mostly like, not that I won't listen, but we're going to do it mostly my way, or you probably just won't be on the team for super long. That doesn't work as well in large organizations. You need all kinds of people to make it work. And you need to learn how to relate to all different kinds of people with all different personalities that you may or may not agree with all the time. And so it takes a lot more flexibility, I think, as a leader, a lot more empathy, which maybe some people would say isn't totally my strength, especially coming from the Marine Corps. Is more like, hey, let's just go get this done. We're going to win. I like to win. Let's go succeed. And being a little more flexible and being willing to meet people where they're at.
Well, and I know recently you had some tornadoes that went through the area and you were out of town, yet you called every single person that was under your leadership, and you made certain that they were okay, made certain that everything was going well, and put into action getting in touch with all the people that they served to keep going. So I know your culture is very, very strong, and you want to lead in a way that people are developed into leaders. So right now, advice that you have on what are you doing to develop those leaders around you?
Yeah, I think one is find someone that you can learn from that's farther along so you can advance your learning faster so you can help the people that you're trying to lead. That seems like maybe a simplistic answer, and I'll go more in depth in that. But if you can get around the right people, you'll grow faster, which then in turn helps you lead other people. And then you just got to spend time with them. And you got to sometimes be okay with I don't know, at least for me, it's a balance of not giving them too many of the answers, let them make some mistakes, even if you can see like, man, I'm not sure that's going to work. But sometimes they need to make small mistakes to learn on their own. And then you just got to spend time with them. You got to spend time with people, and you got to think all of life is a test. All of life we can learn from. It's just taking the experiences that your people are having and then helping them learn the lessons that they can see in those experiences so we don't keep repeating the same things over and over.
So how do you give your people experiences so they actually can learn from them and expand their mind in becoming more?
Yeah, I think you have to take action. So if you go take action on something, you're going to get a result. It may not be the result you want, but you're going to get a result. From that result, we can say, what went really good? What did we not do so well? What can we do differently? How can we learn? How can we change? How can we pivot? The only way you're not going to learn is if you don't do anything.
So how often do you have those reflection meetings or those questions asked with your team that you put together?
Yeah, so we're scheduled to meet once a week, and I find myself usually meeting like 3 or 4 times a week, just because we want to win. We're competitive people, and we want to help people grow. Like, hey, as things are happening, hey, this happened today and this happened yesterday. Awesome. The faster we can course correct and the faster we can learn from it, the faster we can make progress. And so
You don't wait for a week. If you see something going awry, you get right on it and you grab the people up and get them together. Is that what I'm hearing?
yeah, we sit down and we talk about it. Hey, what happened here, and how can we do something different, or what can we learn from this? Heard somewhere along the way, life is really interesting. Like in school, you get a lesson and then you take a test to see if you learned it. And in life, you get a test and then the lesson comes after it.
Yeah.
And so it's backwards. Like you get tested, you screw up, and then if you pay attention, you get the lesson. But if you don't get the lesson, they'll just keep giving you the test over and over until you do get it. And so the faster we can get the lesson, we can go take a different test.
That's so true. So now I'm going to ask you a tough question.
Oh,
because
good.
a lot of times as leaders, we get to tell people what I call the hard truth, right? We have to be honest with them, yet we have to let them down at a rate that they can handle. So how important is it for the leader to hear the hard truth about themselves? And do you ever ask your people, like, what is it like to work with me?
I do, and I probably should ask more because sometimes I don't see myself as like confrontational or intimidating. Now, I think I'm like a pretty open person, but not everyone agrees with that. And so sometimes I think I don't get all the feedback. They say, well, this is going on, but they didn't want to tell you about it. Like, I would much rather you just tell me, give me the information so we can all grow and get better. If I don't know, I can't do anything about it. And so there's probably some room for opportunities there to say, hey, I want the information. I want to know what we're doing, what you think I could do better. I may not always agree with it, but at least we can have a conversation and hash it out.
So, what advice do you have for all of the listeners out there right now that are leaders and they want to be a great leader and develop other leaders? What is one of the first things that you would tell them to really look in the mirror and ask themselves a tough question? What would it be?
Where am I at today? Because where I am today was a result of what I've done in my mindset. Where do I want to be and what do I need to change?
Okay, so you're always looking at the gap in between. Is that what I hear?
Yeah, I think it's really easy for us to look at like our organization or the agents or the people. And sometimes it's harder to look in the mirror and say, like, what's my DNA in this? Where am I at? Like, we're in this situation. At the end of the day, if I'm the leader, we're in this situation because of me. I may not like that. It may be hard to hear, but it's true. And so what do I need to do differently for my people, for our organization to get where we want to go?
Well, and I don't know about you. There were days that I looked in the mirror and went, really? Everything rises and falls on leadership? Why does it always have to be my fault as the leader, right? I mean, I wanted days to say, no, let somebody else take this one, please, please. Yet we are responsible for what's happening. I want to go now to the ancillary companies. You built these. You have a mortgage company, a title company. What did you look for when you wanted to go out and build another company that helped the company you currently have?
Yeah, I think to me, most all business is about people. Like businesses, they're different products, there's different stuff, but at the end of the day, it comes down to people. And so I think when you're building other businesses or your business, you're just looking for the best people. Who are the people that I can trust that I know are going to do a good job? And I, you know what, we might make some mistakes along the way, but like we're in this together and we're going to figure it out. And they're skilled, they're good at what they do, and they have good character. I think you can always build with those people.
You know, it is about people. It's about having that inner circle that you can depend on. People that will actually give you the tough truth, tell you that the things that you need to hear that you may not want to hear. How many do you have in your inner circle, and what do you look for to put them in that inner circle?
I would maybe describe it as like two different inner circles. One of like peers of people that like, hey, we're all building, we all are running, like maybe they run insurance or they run the title side, or maybe they're in another part of the real estate business with us and we're building together. And then I think there's like a really trusted inner circle of people that are farther along than you that, hey, if I have a question, maybe it's not something I'm going to take to one of my peers or one of the people I'm leading, but I'm going to go ask it to you or to Tony or someone else that's in my circle that I can say, hey, they're way farther along than I am. I'm going to get a good answer here. I think both those groups are important. And then as I'm saying that in my head, I'm thinking about you. I can hear you talking to me saying like I should have a group of people that are at the lower level that I'm leading and mentoring as well.
Exactly. Well, you said mentoring. Let's go there for just a moment, because as our time is winding up, how important is it for people to have a mentor?
I would say there may be something that's more important, but I can't think of what it is off the top of my head. It's definitely up there. Like you need someone to hold you accountable, and you need someone to help you when you hit stuff that's tough and you're not sure what to do. And I hear people a lot say like, well, it's lonely at the top or it's lonely in leadership. It is sometimes, but it doesn't have to be. Like I understand why it feels that way. I feel that way sometimes too. I get it. And if you can get around the right people and you can have mentors that are going to be willing to pour into you and help you and invest in like your own growth and what you're building, it's a lot easier and you can get where you want to go a lot faster. You don't have to make all the mistakes yourself, which saves you time and saves you money.
Well, the interesting part when you said it's lonely at the top, it's only lonely if you don't take anybody with you.
Right.
If you have a mentor, I know when I was CEO of MAPS, and I would pick up the phone and call John Maxwell, who's been my mentor for 29 years, or John Addison, or Susan Scott, or Don Yeager, some of the coaches that I had, and I would say, hey, this is what's happening, and this is what I'm thinking. help me out because I'm not 100% sure. And they would ask questions and they would say, oh, no, I wouldn't do that one, right? Sometimes you just got to get it out. Yet those people you've got to trust aren't going to run out and tell everybody else, hey, this person's having problems with this, right? You can't believe what I just helped them out with. No, you've got to have mentors that keep things to themselves and yet hold you able. I love holding people able instead of accountable to doing what it is that you already know that they can do. So what do you think's happened to your leadership since you've been in a mentor program for, gosh, how long have we been doing this? 2 years?
Around there. Yeah. I would say you can ask the people here too. It's increased, like my leadership has increased tremendously. Like I said, sometimes I was more of the, like, no, we're going in this direction. We're going to do this. Let's go. I know I'm right. Instead of ask questions and listen and help people see how doing this benefits them. Because at the end of the day, everybody wants to do what's best for themselves. I just believe that. If we can show them how maybe serving other people or being a part of the team is actually the best thing for them, we get a lot farther, a lot faster. But I think sometimes if we don't have mentorship and we're not accountable to someone, or we don't have someone to bounce ideas off of or push us, like you told me when we started, like, hey, you don't have to do all things. Just if you don't want to do them, don't worry about it. We just won't have a relationship anymore. It's not a problem. You said it super nicely, but pretty firmly. And so I think if you have those people in your life, they push you to grow. Instead of sometimes we get complacent. If you have the right mentors and the right people, they can push you to get where you, and it's not push you just for no reason. It's push you because that's where they know you want to go. That's where you're headed. They're just helping you get there faster, even when you don't want to do it.
And being a mentee with me, you've literally had to do something every single day, even on weekends, towards leadership. And it's that drip, I call it the drip campaign, right? And I have watched your leadership. And I've got to tell you, James, in talking with some of your people, yes, they say your character as a leader has grown. And not that it was bad. After all, you were a Marine, for heaven's sakes. You had integrity, you had discipline, you had the habits of making certain that things were done. You were loyal to people. People could trust you. That wasn't the issue. When I say character, I mean learning the questions to ask, learning to help the people, learning to help develop them. And you were a great leader before. And for them to say you're getting better and better just means so much because you were good to begin with. So even though you're good,
I feel like I've grown tremendously just from, like, I think you become your environment, right? Like whatever environment you place yourself in, eventually you will succumb to that environment. So spending time, even if it's one daily habit, and texting you and talking to, you somewhat regularly about leadership and about the book and about what we're doing, you just learn and you grow and you become more like those people that are doing what you want to do. And those people, if they're doing it right, they have mentors. So you're getting access to a whole network of people that are doing what you wanted to do, and you can learn from that instead of trying to make all the mistakes and do everything yourself. It just doesn't make sense.
well, and the interesting thing, like in my book, I talk about the fact that our brain and the cells, there's about 250 to 300 cells in our body that are just out there and they're doing different things all the time. And your environment helps to change those cells. And your brain changes based on what you're hearing all the time. I know John Maxwell has helped me become a great leader and helping other people. I'm taking the lessons I learned from him, plus the other things I'm learning, pouring into you. You're taking those lessons, plus all the lessons you're learning from other people and pouring into others. And it's this ripple effect that we just keep going on and on and on because we want to develop ourselves and therefore we want to develop others. So what parting thoughts do you have for the listeners today?
I would say there's probably something you should be doing that you're not doing today. Go do that. And there's probably a relationship that you need that you don't have today. Go find that. I think if you do those two things, you can pretty much do anything if you just keep repeating that process. Like, hey, I started this. What's the next natural step? think I'm going to probably butcher this, but the success you want is in somewhere in the things you're not doing. Like the work you're avoiding, that's where your success is. Go do the things that are hard that you know you need to do, and go find the relationships that you don't have today that you know you need. If you don't have a mentor, go find one, go find a couple, go find relationships that can help you get where you want to go. And I know like sometimes you say, well, I don't have the time or I don't have enough money. If you had to find it, you would find it. Just convince yourself that you have to, and then you will.
Well, and you and I are part of what we're going to be doing. In fact, you went to Atlanta with me for quite a few people that I was kind of mentoring at the time. And I love to have experiences. How important is it for people to have experiences with their mentor?
Vitally important, I would say. You can learn a certain amount through reading or through like a conversation. There's some things you can only learn by doing and by experiencing. And so I'll give people some examples of when you're maybe in a room with people that are doing things that you would like to be doing or you're not doing, and they're talking about amounts of money or giving away amounts of money that you currently are like, I don't know how I could ever do that. It changes what's possible for you. Or you go, we went the event we did, we went and wrote a song. I took so many things away from that related to business that you wouldn't think songwriting like that has nothing to do with it. Like it did. There's so much correlation of things I learned through that experience that if I didn't have that experience, I wouldn't have learned, that I couldn't have brought back to my people about telling stories and about trying to paint a picture in someone's mind that they can see it the same way you did. I learned that from the songwriting people, and you would never think that until you have the experience.
Well, and that's the fun part about it. And I loved that experience. It was the 10 Commandments of Collaboration. I love the title, and it was one of the best experiences that we were able to give. James, you've given us a great experience today. Great learning opportunities. I know that the people have taken tons of notes on things from character to loyalty to leadership, developing leaders, to having discipline, accountability, and to have a mentor. And I just so appreciate being able to be one of your mentors. It's been a privilege, and it's been a privilege to have you on Becoming More. So thank you, and thanks everyone for listening. Stay tuned. Every Tuesday we come out with Becoming More, so you too can become more, be more, do more, have more, and give more in your life. Thank you.
Thanks, Dianna.
In your life, you deserve to be more, do more, have more, and give more. And now the Becoming More podcast with Dianna Kokoszka.